Oh, okay, so how are things in New Zealand? Things are beyond weird here in Trumpistan. Look, the ripples of Trumpistan are felt everywhere, right? So, you may think, well, I'm a million miles away, so, it, we wouldn't know anything about it or we would just see it from afar. But actually, obviously, US is, the sort of most powerful nation. And so whatever they do does trickle down. And we definitely have a sort of a very right government at the moment in New Zealand who have some of those sort of, I guess, pretty cold attitudes towards poor people and middle class people, which is a real shame to see. And there has been a lot of controversy and stuff. If you want to talk politics, he's leaving. Oh, boo-hoo. Well, see you later, buddy. But over here, we're definitely feeling those effects. There is a recession over here as well, so things are pretty quiet. And look, it's not amazing. Not going to lie, it's not amazing. And I do not love seeing what's going on over there. I just think, and I'll say this always, is ultimately we should be kind of looking out and caring for each other. And our politicians should orientate their views to do that. Not just the top 1%, but, who can benefit for the greater good, everyone. And that should be their mission, and that should be who they're serving as the people. And I just don't really see that. So, yeah, that's my answer to that one. What else we got here? I just got to sip on this coffee. It is not that serious, bro. But, when people talk politics, this is what happens. Some people just check out. And I do have a feeling that some people just check out because they made a vote, they made a decision, and that decision was not the best one. But unfortunately, and this is also true in the camera space, people will double down on a bad call rather than just say, hey, look, guys, you got me. I'm wrong. I just made a mistake. I'm sorry. That is not something that we're super, that's not one of the things that's our favorite to do. So, yeah. Scrap World Builder is here. Hi, Famira Yoda. Yes. Oh, you bought a used Lumix S1. That's awesome to hear. Look, I love those old Lumix cameras. I can't deny it. Those Lumix cameras are just... oh, here we go. Mighty Mickey. What's up, King Savage? Thank you. Not much, man. Just drinking a coffee and realizing that I'm very unprepared for this chat. Very, very unprepared. But I do have some thoughts. But a great thing to talk about is those Panasonic cameras. So bought a used S1, love to hear it. I obviously have a used S1H. I also bought a S5 twice. And so I just think that there's something, if you don't need autofocus, or you can get by without autofocus, the S1, S1H, and S5 are like unbeatable. And I do think like probably of all those, the best value is the S1 because it's pretty much the S1H. The S5 has a few more limitations and a few less settings, but for me, that's the go. That's the T. Gear aside, what was the hardest part of making your films? That's a great question. So the hardest part of making my films, I think, is marrying my vision with my resources. And there is a quote from George Lucas. It's like, it's not about the film that you have in your mind, but it's the film you can make with the resources that you have. And so sort of adjusting, and I've got better at it as I've gone on, but adjusting, I suppose, okay, I have this much money, I have this much resources, this many days, whatever. What can I do and make the most of that without kind of completely fucking things, because basically what happens is you always are more ambitious than what your budget allows. But if you're too ambitious, you will kind of just not achieve anything, because that thing couldn't, like, your budget collapses your ambition, and you just kind of make something bad because you couldn't do the thing you wanted to do. You couldn't achieve that with the means that you had. So I think that was definitely one of the trickiest parts of making films. The other part that's just hard, and I think about it here when I'm on YouTube, is that they just take so long to make. And it really comes back to having a good script, right? And having a good script is the hardest part of making films, because that's where we all start from and don't have when we often want to make our films. And, like, you don't need just a good script. You need an amazing script, because it's going to get watered down through that resource thing, through your limitations, through your experience or inexperience. And so you need to start with something that's like 100% bulletproof and then scale it back from that. I also see, I got the S1 for $650 used at a lens rental, and I plan on getting the S1H or the S1 IIe. Look, all good cameras. I mean, the S1 IIe is basically an S5, an S5 II, with a couple more extra features. So, but it does have autofocus. So the benefit you have if you get the S1 IIe is that you have your sort of softer, better looking camera, and then you have your autofocusing camera. And obviously sometimes we all need autofocus, right? So autofocus is super handy. And so then you have kind of the best of both worlds. You know, personally, I would pick the S1H, but I understand that, you know, I need autofocusing cameras as well. So we can't all just say, oh, I just get the nicest looking one. I got my S1H for, I think it was just over $1,000 US. Here from Utah, USA. Starting from the beginning. There's nothing good at the beginning, mate. Might as well just start from here. Pocket 4K, an amazing camera still in 2026. I actually want to do a refresh on the Pocket 4K. I didn't start, but one of my cameras, I guess my first 4K camera was a Pocket 4K, and I've actually had a Pocket 4K that I've used in our podcast studio, but I want to kind of get it out and just do a bit of filming and show what it can be done. Heather says, my movie is in my mind. All our movies are in our mind until we take that first little step to get them out first on paper and then onto the screen. But yeah, I've got the best movie ever in my mind. Just doesn't come out quite that way. I can see that there's like a very soft chat pop-up, and it's sort of like it's popping up, but like the faintest pop-up ever. And I wonder what I've done in OBS. What happens if I turn that off? Does that do anything? I just turned one setting off. I want to see if it disappears or stays appeared, and then maybe we can... Oh, did I turn it off? Maybe. It's hard to know. I'm just trying to get the chat to pop up for everyone so they can see what I'm responding to. I'm really sorry that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, okay? I spent many hours last night trying to figure out what the fuck I was doing. And now we're here, and I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So clip that up. Clip that up. Okay, I think it's something to do with this. All jokes aside, I've learned so much from you, so thanks for real. My absolute pleasure. Honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. Why am I even doing YouTube? Like, what's the fucking point? Like, just why? There's so much time and effort. I don't really see an upside a lot of the time, but it's actually people making comments and saying, hey, I really learned something, or hey, thank you for your advice, or whatever the case is. all of those things is what makes me continue to do updates. What do I think about the Pixboom Spark 4K 1000 FPS that is coming out soon? I've only seen a few little bits online about it. I do think those super slow motion cameras are awesome, but they have a very specific use case. So it's, for me anyway, it's hard to justify like, hey man, I just want to see that amazing slow motion. When will I use it? One shot out of an entire movie, or like on my sort of generic corporate work, never. And in my documentaries, again, I don't know. So definitely, if it's with these specific slow motion cameras, it's like, I'd love to have a play. I'd love to rent them and use a specific project for them, but I don't think I could ever justify buying one outright. So yeah. Robert Redford, so RIP to the old Robert Redford, but the new Robert Redford, 8928, says he's just got his Pixis 12K back from warranty. Nothing was wrong. My fault for using the wrong cable on the front USB port of the Pixis monitor. Okay, because I have heard quite a few things about the Pixis 12K having issues. Now, my DOP friend has it, and he's been using it heaps. We used it. We shot a bunch of tests with it. I borrowed it for a weekend. I had no issues, but obviously you see those little faults come to light over time. You don't necessarily see them straight away. And so I do think that they have some firmwaring to do to kind of iron out all those things. And I feel like they were maybe just running out of time against their release date and what they promised. And so they kind of dropped it, and they're like, well, we just got to get it out. But they hadn't quite got that all sorted yet. I'm seeing a lot of that online. Hasn't been my personal experience. But yeah. What about the Nexus G1? So the Nexus G1 is like, I think it's a pocket, either 4K, it might be 6K camera, put into a cube. I think it's very exciting. I would love to have one. I think that's kind of... and it's awesome to see people doing that kind of innovation. I know I think they met with a bit of resistance from Blackmagic, because what happens if you make a better cube than Blackmagic's cube? I mean, that's the real question, right? Which wouldn't be that hard to do, because that cube has a few issues with it still. You know, it was their first attempt, and I don't think that they did everything amazing. So yeah. Mr. Mislivet says, does it make sense to replace the S5 2X with the S1 II? Well, I said different image quality. Yeah, I reckon you will. Yeah, you definitely will. I would say that it's not huge, but you will see a difference for sure. Plus, you have extra shooting modes which are really helpful. So, you know, rather than having to do ProRes out, you can do ProRes internally. So yes, I do think so. Also, for sure, in their like if you have a video assist or something like that and you're shooting B-RAW, I think there's quite a big difference between the B-RAW and the S5 2X and the B-RAW and the S1 II. So in terms of a difference, yes, you will see a difference in image quality. What about the R6 III? Would it mix well with the S1? So I just used the R6 III, and I've got a video coming out on probably in about like a week's time or something, where I go into depth about the R6 III. But what I will say is that I was really impressed by it. So impressed that I was in the photo store, Photo Gear, where I buy all my equipment yesterday, and I almost bought one. Even though I said I was not going to buy one, I was like, should I just do it? Should I just fucking buy one? Now, I've got more reasons to do that than the average person, because I have also now just recently got a C300 Mark III, and that's sort of mainly my A camera now on my corporate and doc work. So having another Canon makes sense. If you have an S1, probably makes a bit less sense. Yeah. Do you think they'll come out with a Pixis 12K Pro and 6K Pro? Yes, I kind of do. I feel like that has to be in the pipeline, where essentially they'll just make that cube slightly bigger and they'll put those NDs on the front. I think that's 100% coming because, everyone did enjoy the 6K Pro, original, and it was very helpful having those NDs. And in fact, back on the Canon thing, is like I sold my Canon C200 when I got the Pocket 6K Pro, because I was like, well, this has got NDs. It does a better image. The form factor is not amazing, but the screen is so much better than the screen on the C200. So on the C200, you have to put another monitor on it to really gauge your image. So I was sort of like, yeah, so the 6K Pro is just better than the C200. And I almost bought, I can't resist a good secondhand deal. I just can't resist it. And I'm still on the fence about getting another C200 now for very, very little, because they're so cheap. They are great, but then I'm like, well, why do I need to? I've got the 6K Pro. I'm literally repeating the same mistake that I got out of. So yeah, yeah. So interesting. Okay, I can see this. I'm just gonna try my hardest to pop that text up a bit bigger, and see if I can. Okay, I can see it now. How? Okay, cool. That's cool. Now, how can I make that better? What I need to do is What if that makes it sort of better. Can you guys see the text popping up? Not really, eh? It doesn't really look very good. Maybe, what do I need to do? Okay, just bear with me 1 second. What's this? What if I do that? Will it make it better? Not really. Position and style, layers. Background color. What if we do this? Is that going to help? Okay, I've sort of fixed it. Look, does it look amazing? No. Does it look better than it did? I think so. I'm just doing my best here. I do apologize. I really do. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Okay, now I've got to find my live stream. Here we go. Okay, answering some questions. Thank you so much for the questions, by the way. Okay, so here we go. So I'm just backing up, sorry. GMT Neil says, hi from UK, and probably the only person in the chat to have an A7 IV. Hey, I like photos too. Hey, fair enough. I like photos too, and I had an A7 IV and used it, well, until earlier this year. I used the shit out of that camera. It is very, very useful. Very, 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 very good. Yeah, it's sort of, one of my sort of favorites, to be honest, for convenience. How much time do you spend shooting your own stuff, like YouTube versus working on client stuff? I would say it's probably like 70% client stuff and 30% YouTube stuff. And then sometimes when it's quiet, which it has been, it's like 60-40. But that's not really by choice. That's by the choice of the recession, I think. Heather says, I know I have like 30 lights. What am I going to do with all the lights? It is called gas. I just bought some more lights yesterday. Look, you can never have too many lights. Can you advise on how you transition from a job to going full-time with your business? It was kind of a process over a period of years. So I started off as a freelancer and I would just be freelancing part-time. So I just started off shooting. Well, it's hard because it's kind of tied up with my writing and directing and sort of a filmmaker. But I guess what I realized is that, hey, I can leverage all these skills and actually just work for other people. That never really occurred to me when I was shooting all my stuff, doing all this indie stuff. I never thought, hey, people could pay me to do this. In my head, I was like, I am the struggling writer-director, and I only do this for myself. But anyway, once I wrapped my head around that, which was, I guess, about back in sort of 2016, I started doing editing work. I'd always written on commission for other people, but I also started doing essentially videography work. And a lot of that was in events. And so basically what I did, and this is a very slow progress, and I really hate it when people, you see stuff like, even me, you see me going, oh, I was just going to buy a camera yesterday. It's like, once upon a time, back in 2016, for me to buy a camera would have been me taking a massive loan out and paying it off over 3 years. So I really don't want to glorify that kind of like, oh, hey, it's easy. It's not easy at all. But basically what I did is, in 2016, as I was sort of transitioning, I was started shooting for other people. Mainly that was events. At those events, I'd be paid, not a huge amount, but I was doing it quite consistently. I was doing 1 or 2 events every week. Through those 1 or 2 events every week, I basically reinvested all my money into sort of upgrading my gear so those events looked better and better as I filmed them. And then I started to get more work based on that event work and editing work, just kind of separate to that. And so I sort of reinvested, and I kind of still do that all the time, which I shouldn't now because I've got plenty of gear. I don't need to keep getting new stuff really. But anyway, I sort of reinvested, and as I was reinvesting, those event works got more, and I started doing different stuff. Then I sort of linked up with my producing partner, who was like, hey, you film stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, I've got some stuff I need filming. And then that sort of became a partnership. And then together we created our own sort of production company, Campfire Studios. And I was still teaching. I was still teaching digital media at the time. And I'll be honest, I love teaching. I love teaching certain things. I love teaching digital media. I love teaching film. Like, that's part of the reason I'm on YouTube, is to teach. So I didn't actually really want to give that up, but my contract expired and they didn't renew it for another year. And so it's like, I guess we're going all in on video production, and which so far has been fine. Although this last year has not been the heady days of some of my other years doing it. So that's kind of, it was a very slow progression, and it was over the course of like part-time to full-time was like a 5 or 6 year journey. So yeah, that's my sort of advice on transitioning. But it was sort of like, take the little wins, don't quit your day job, don't go all in. Just go all in on the belief that you're going to build this up and keep doing it. Also, just highly recommend, and I do it. I still do it, and I will just never stop doing it. It's like, do shit for free. I know some people think that's counterintuitive, but it's like, man, you want to go out and get your reps in. You want to go out and flex your muscles. You want to go out and show what you could do. But no one's just going to go, oh, cool, man. Well, hey, you do this. Here's this documentary. Here's, 100K to do that now, until you've shown them you can do it. So it does become a chicken and egg. It does become a catch-22. The only way that you can kind of bypass all that is if you go and shoot stuff. So I throw it out all the time. I'm like, hey, I'm looking to test new camera or something. Does anyone have some of my friends, does anyone have something I can shoot demo stuff for them? These last 2 music videos were kind of born through that I'll be sort of talking about more. So yeah, all of those things sort of I guess, slowly add up, and then you can sort of go full-time. I hope that is a helpful answer. But it's a slow process. Rome was not built in a day. So Heather says, I built furniture out of scrap wood and it was part-time, then it got busy and went full-time. Congratulations. Now I want to make a channel showing other folks how to do it. But you also love cameras. Yeah, look, and I think that's awesome. Like, why not? That's very cool, and I feel like that could be a really popular YouTube channel as well. And just make it look real nice with the cameras you buy. At the end, you're winning. James Cook, or James Cookson Photo, sorry, says, I have an old Sony camera that has the same CCD sensor as the F35 and the images it creates is amazing. Totally agree. Old cameras are great. Old cameras are the new cameras. Just buy a fucking old camera. There's just so much rich gold in these old cameras that kind of become obsolete in a couple of years. But, it's the best, man. Absolutely. I think GMT Deal says, I think you're one of the better channels of the last few years. Good mix of humor and information. That is, honestly, a very lovely compliment. And that is all I try and do is give you some good info, but frame it with a bit of personality and humor, because my fucking God, does it get dry out here when you're just talking kind of about the gear, or you're just talking, can get very boring. So, Jade Finch, I love my 6K Pro, but it is missing some things I need. So I'm drooling over all the new cameras. You're right, they are slowly updating. And James Cookson is, greetings from Atlanta, USA, 5:30. Yeah, just knocking off from work, right? You got time to jump on the live stream with me. Appreciate it. And yeah, I still haven't managed to master this goddamn pop-up chat. I am trying. Do clients expect you to shoot, edit, and color grade, or are they happy to just have raw footage? This is from Robert Redford. In my experience, all my clients almost want an end-to-end service. So they want me to shoot it to be edited, them to give notes. They don't even talk about color grade. That's just automatic. And then it's delivered. Now, occasionally, a client, very occasionally, I would say 2 times out of the last 5 years, a client has just asked for the raw footage. Every other time it's been a wraparound service. One thing I will say is when I shot events, it was more events, and still when I do events sometimes they just want the raw footage, which is great. Is a personal reel an outdated idea? Carl in San Diego asks, has it been replaced with YouTube or other larger sample of work? I definitely think it is still very relevant. I think the problem with YouTube is you go, hey man, check out my YouTube. No one's going to do that. People are so lazy. Even if you give them the link and they click on it and they click through, unless you're a camera nerd YouTube enthusiast yourself, whoever you told to click on that link, they will be yeah, that's too hard basket. Whereas if they see a reel and it's a minute and a half or a little bit longer, I feel like that is very accessible. I really think it's all about the minimum effort for them, they are going to expel the minimum effort to kind of get to know you. In fact, I get people sending me stuff all the time, perfect example, director of photography sending me their stuff being like, hey man, would love to collaborate in the future, da-da-da-da-da, here's my stuff. And I'm like, thank you. But they don't say, here's my show reel. They're like, here's 3 shorts I did. And it's like, whew, now I got to click on those. I don't know about that. Because I'm not, that's the problem is these people are not necessarily looking hard for new people to work with. In fact, they almost have to be forced into it. So you've got to give them the easiest path to do that. So I do think a reel is actually very helpful. I did recently update our campfire show reel to show a few of the different things we do, which we put on our website. Did it help? Well, I've got no idea, because over here, And I think this is unfortunately true of the film industry in general, is that it has nothing to do with skill and everything to do with relationships. It is just the way it is. But obviously then if you have the skill to back it up, you'll be in a really good position. Do I still use the Red One? I sold my Red One. I do regret selling it, but it was just such a tank. And again, it's one of those things, it's like, you got to use cameras that suit you. Now, how often do I have like a team with me? Actually, very rare. Most of the time, it's just me, or it's just me and a very small crew for the work that I generally do. And then every now and then, I'll get the opportunity to do a short or a feature or something with a bit more resource, and then I've got the team. But that I can't just roll out the Red One for that. But to me, just the image of that Red One, there was just something about it, but I was just like, oh, this just looks nicer than every other thing that has come after it for me, which goes back to that old camera thing. And Heather Gardner says, I'm cheap, so the S1 used is so fun. Could we please do a review of the Temu cameras? Look, that is a really interesting idea. I think we all have to embrace the cheap. I think, and that is actually something I'm very conscious of. To be honest, what gets me excited on YouTube is discovering like some cheap shit that I can recommend to you guys. Because it's like, okay, fuck all that spending $5,000, today, because who's got that? Like, you got to be realistic about these things, but it's like $100 here, $100 there, or a real cheap camera, under $1,000. Okay. Fuck, I can work with that. If I was a filmmaking student, fuck, I could scrape that together. I could beg, borrow, and steal to get that done. That's what I dig, because who should we be enabling here is not rich people. If you're rich, congratulations. But as in, it's like, that's not the realistic default of people coming here to learn on YouTube, I don't think. Yeah, I would definitely be interested in. To be honest, one of the things that I haven't done yet, one of the videos that I'd love to do, and I kind of started it, was to buy a bunch of the worst lenses off eBay, but that are actually good lenses, but are cheap because they have fungus or haze or whatever, and go, okay, so what does that actually mean? Like, can you actually risk, or a scratched up lens? And I've actually just bought a scratched up lens, so updates to come on that one. But it's like, yeah, can we get all these bargain lenses and just go, haze, no problem. Fungus, no problem. Chuck it on. It'll be good. It'll still be good. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in that type of thing. Best cheap camera right now that's super good is the Fujifilm XM5. That's from Mighty Miggy. Yeah, look, I would love to try a few more Fujis. I had the Fuji XS20. I used it, I enjoyed it, and then I sold it. It just wasn't quite it for me, I suppose. And also, like, especially when you're on YouTube, you're trying things, you're testing things, you're trying to develop workflows and stuff. You don't necessarily want to just have 500 cameras. So I just let go of my Blackmagic Pocket OG, for example, because it just wasn't being used. So I sort of have a rule that if a camera kind of sits being unused for like, a few months, then it's like, okay, I obviously don't need that camera. I should probably pass that camera on. Talking about Rich, how about the Z8 for video creators? Worth the debt, can do some soft BM cinematics. Look, the Z8 looks very, very good, but I have not shot with it. I, again, was very compelled to buy a Z8 because there was one very cheap in my area. That was essentially the price, slightly cheaper than the Z6 III. And I was like, oh, that would pair beautifully with my ZR. But I resisted that urge. So I can't really speak to that one. I can't really speak to the quality of it, but I've heard very good things, and I certainly am a huge fan of my ZR and what it can do. Here we go. I'll buy the camera and you review it. Okay, well, we can talk about that. That is a possibility. Just as a quick loaner to test it out and give it a jam. Maybe that could be a thing. For sure. Yeah, so Yes. Can you talk a bit about your editing system, maybe progression you made over time? Of course, Carl in San Diego. Yeah, so my editing, I started in Final Cut 7, and when it upgraded to Final Cut X, I was very reluctant. I was a very late adopter because I was very used to Final Cut 7, and Final Cut X they're so different. They're so dramatically different. It's not like you can use them in the same way. They're just, and it felt very iPhone-y to me, to be honest. And so I was sort of like, this ain't working for me. I'm going to have to take the leap. So I went to Adobe Premiere, and then I had to relearn everything, sort of. Editing is editing. It's one shot in front of the other, so it's not rocket science, but, you know, obviously to get used to the shortcuts, the menus, da-da-da-da-da. So I was using Premiere. I definitely never fell in love with Premiere. It was always buggy. It was always slow. Just waiting for it to load when you open it. You're just like, come on, man. So I used Premiere, and I started on YouTube in Premiere, but what I was doing is at the end, is I was sending my stuff to DaVinci Resolve to muck about with the colors and do some adjustments, which I'd had to always do for my narrative films, my features and all that. They're all finished in Resolve, and I'm like, why am I finishing these in Resolve when I could just do the whole damn thing? Because I was also I shot a short film a few years ago, and I shot it in B-RAW, mainly on the Ursa G1, the Ursa G1, and a little bit on the Pocket 4K. And it was one of my first things that I finished and shot in 4K in B-RAW. And Premiere was, at the time, a nightmare in terms of the compatibility with B-RAW. And then when I tried to send it all, like, essentially to Resolve, it broke again. So it kind of broke twice. It broke as I was trying to get the footage into edit, and then it broke as I sent the footage away for it to be color graded. And I was just like, man, I'm not having this anymore. And a friend of mine, Isaac Newcomb, who does a lot of work and helps me here on the channel, director of photography, he's like, bro, just start using Resolve. What's wrong with you? And I was like, I can't learn another thing. And he goes, trust me, just start and then thank me later. And this is kind of now what I say to everyone is like, just start and Resolve and thank me later, because what I thought would take me like months is like got all my shortcut keys in within a day. I was editing at like 80-90% of what I was doing in Adobe. And yes, there was things that I was like, oh, I'm confused. Where's this? Where's that? That took a little bit longer, but ultimately it was so easy. Resolve is just so much better. Like it's not a competition, because there is no competition, because Resolve is so superior in every way. And even if you just think about, again, I'm big on reliability and, you know, not fucking out, and Resolve is just, yeah, of course it'll crash. Like everything will crash every now and again, but the amount of editing I've done in it with the least amount of problems versus Premiere's constant madness was just a nightmare. So I switched to Resolve, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago now. I love it, and I highly recommend it, and you will get the hang of it, and you will not have to pay Premiere anymore, which again, so that subscription fee is brutal for an editing system that is not super amazing. So yeah, that was my sort of process. I hope, did I just talk about, maybe I should have, there's a better answer there if we're oh no, editing system. Okay, I did answer that. Cool. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. And so now I use the M1 Max, Resolve Studio, 64 gigs of RAM, generally can handle everything, and it's all good. Generally. Yeah. Best bang for buck, Mac or PC. Funny story about that. So I'm primarily a Mac user, and if you use Resolve, again, I would say Mac, Resolve pair very well together. I actually thought to myself, well, this is dumb. And again, I'm a cheap guy, right? So I'm trying to find the value. It's like, I'm having to upgrade my whole computer, every, I don't know, 5 years or something, when I could just be upgrading my graphics card and some RAM and da-da-da-da-da, and I could do it piecemeal. So actually I need a PC. So I got a PC, and I paid a lot of money for that PC, and I upgraded it multiple times, and I could never get it to run as well as my Macs for editing. And it was always doing other weird stuff. So it has to be, for me, like, and I, again, it's like explaining it, because I do know PC users that edit and stuff, but it's like the Mac just works and they make it very easy, and I'm all about kind of shortening the gap between getting started and making something. And so the gap is smaller with a Mac, and you're gonna deal with less problems. And Mighty Moogie says a PC would probably cost more now. You're not wrong, just given the shortage of chips and cards and shit like that. So yeah, 100% agree. So yeah, but I'm definitely a Mac guy, and I'm now a Mac lifer. After I tried to join the master race, and it just really, and I ended up again selling that PC for way less than I bought it for. Again, the used market over here is pretty grim, and I was just very depressed about the whole thing, because it just added time to my workflow. I was just solving problems with it all the time instead of make art now, to reference Make Art Now. So yeah, GMT Neil says, I love cheap vintage lenses. I recently picked up Canon FD lens for 500 yen in a secondhand shop, and I love the look. Asahi Takamura lenses are also great. I am the biggest advocate for vintage lenses. I feel like if you're going to start off making movies, you need to learn what prime lenses are and how they work and da-da-da-da-da. And so the best way to do that is to buy vintage lenses, because they're cheap, and then you can find your favorite focal lengths, and you can always buy more expensive vintage lenses if you're really digging them. And I've just got a Canon FD set myself. Basically, also 19 people here in the chat. Thank you. Almost going to hit 20, I hope. But they just give you a very affordable education in prime lenses. They also give you a great look. They also take that ugly digital edge off your images, which we should all be wanting to do, in my opinion. And I've just got a set of Canon FDs. In fact, I've kind of got two sets, because I've got a bunch of Canon NFDs, which are the real small, cheaper build ones, because they're so cheap and small, and I really love them for travel. And then I've got, and then I'm trying to build out a set of SCC FDs. The problem with the Canon FDs is they're the cheapest to buy, but the most expensive to modify, and the most annoying to modify if you want to change the back to like an EF mount or something. So yeah. Look, here we go. We got a Lumix fan. We're all Lumix fan. We got a new Lumix fan in the chat. Lumix S1R2 has the softest and most cinematic image. Lumix is the best. Old Lumix is the best. I don't know if I can agree with you about the S1R2, but I will also be totally upfront. I haven't used the S1R2. I've only used the S12, which does not have the softest and most cinematic image, even remotely, but can be still a very usable camera. So yeah, S1R2, look, Lumix have lost me. I don't know how you got softest from. Because Lumix have lost me with the over sharpening. They really have. And I'll be doing another video about that. Another video. On the subject of learning DaVinci, it's honestly an excuse, considering you can learn how to do everything using AI asking questions. Someone has always answered them. That's right. Like, let's just take a little trip down memory lane to a young savage filmmaker of 19 buying his first version of Final Cut 7. Whenever he wanted answers, he had to look in a giant fat fucking manual about this thick and leaf through it to find the little bit of information. And then again, I'm a visual learner, so reading that was not super helpful to me. That's how we used to learn to and so subsequently, it took way longer to learn Final Cut 7 than any other editing program, because now you can just go, how do I X YouTube, search, done. So yeah, I am definitely agree that it's like we've got no excuse to kind of learn something which is intuitive, and Resolve is intuitive, quickly, assisted through our video learning AI overlords. And Mighty Miggy also says, I love my Helios 44.2 58. I had mine. My copy was a bit loosey-goosey, and so I kind of retired it. And then now I almost bought another one that I saw, and I probably will get another one, because that 44.2 is just a little bit magic. It's just a little bit of magic to chuck on every now and again. Really quite amazing. Have you tested stabilized lenses versus gyro stabilization on Blackmagic cameras? Yes. Yes. I used to use the Tamron G2 with my Blackmagic Pocket 6K and 4Ks. And I would say that I didn't really notice a huge difference with the stabilization. I also have used the is it the 18 to 55, the Canon with stabilization as well. I didn't notice a huge difference, but I guess it was improved. The micro jitters was improved, but like I guess what I had got used to is whenever I was using handheld with my Blackmagics is going into gyro. Is it gyro or gyro? Is it guy like me, gyro? I think it's gyro. Anyway, the gyro setting, I would just kind of paste over all of my shots when I was doing handheld, and that would always give a pretty good result. It's to me, that's actually one of their like quite genius things when it's like, oh no IBIS, which I complain about all the time. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, yeah, no IBIS, but use this gyro and it will be pretty much IBIS. So yeah, you just gotta, I guess, know you're framing slightly wider all the time when you're utilizing it. So I guess the answer is yes. I've used it. It does make a little bit of a difference. My dog is trying to get in, and I'm not going to let him in. I'm not going to let him in because he's going to be annoying if I let him in. What else we got here? Oh, that's a great question. Most of my friends aren't into filmmaking. How do you find new collaborators? Meet up on Facebook or something? Yeah, that is actually, finding collaborators is actually really difficult. It is. It's really tricky when your friend circle isn't into that stuff. I guess for me, yeah, Facebook was a big one, and we used to have quite a big Facebook presence, so we'd always put posts out on Facebook. Hey, I'm looking for X. Joining groups and being like, hey, I'd like to shoot X, I think is really good. You will get people kind of message you and be like, hey, I'm an actor, I want to do this. Hey, I'm a so-and-so, I want to do this. So yes, definitely Facebook groups is really useful. And, you know, I follow a bunch here in New Zealand that are advertising different things. So yeah, I'm on board. I think that is the best way to do it. And then you also, obviously, as you're working in the industry, you will make connections there just on your regular shoots and jobs, even at events and stuff like that, or whatever you may be doing. But it's kind of interesting. And when you find good collaborators, treat them well and hold on to them, because they're actually, like, you know, as a filmmaker, this is the problem with this kind of YouTuber filmmaker debate and how YouTubers will never be real filmmakers is because filmmaking is a team sport and YouTube really isn't. Like, yeah, you can bring people in, but it's not in the same way. You can be completely what's the word I'm looking for? You can run it yourself. That's not what I was going to say, but it doesn't matter, right? So whereas filmmaking is like, no. You can do by yourself films, and if you watch YouTube enough, a lot of YouTubers make, including myself, make by yourself films. Hey, this is what you can do by yourself. There's always a limitation to that, which is like has to be broken down at some point as you bring on a team and work with a team. So yeah, it is a tricky one, but I would definitely recommend groups. Goes back to also like, hey, I'm like, my passion always brought people to the dance, so to speak, is like, hey, I'm doing this and I'm shooting on this day. Do you want to be involved? We're looking for these people. Please let me know. So yeah. Mighty Miggy says 44.2 is only 100 USD. So almost a house. Oh, dude, a house here in Auckland, in the suburb that I live, and I do not own a house, is 1 point something million. So no, there's a housing crisis over here as well. Have you ever wished a camera had RAW, or does a camera having a decent log profile do enough? Replace my Pocket 4K with a Fuji X-S20 as my travel and daily use, since the 12K is overkill sometimes. Yeah, I love that XS20, and it is a great small camera. And log profile can do a lot. I think the S1H is a great example of like, I'm really happy with that log profile. I don't really feel like I'm missing RAW that often. However, especially when you get into narrative stuff, you want to give your work to a color grader, and the amount that they can do with a RAW image versus a log image is significant. And I think people don't really see that often when they're just doing their own stuff, because you're like, well, which is I do too. Well, I just chuck a LUT on it and I mess with the contrast a little bit and and this is what I get. So what do I need RAW for? That is absolutely true until you meet someone that truly knows color grading, and then they kind of sort of go, well, you could have these 5 looks, or you look at an image, you go, oh, I absolutely fucked that shot up. I'm so sorry. And they go, don't worry. Done. Looks amazing. That's kind of the power of RAW. And so I do find myself shooting RAW more often. And I've been spoilt because I've been on Blackmagic cameras for so long that now I find myself shooting other cameras in RAW just because I'm just so used to that, and I do miss it. Like, man, if you want to talk about missing, is like when I sort of mainly transitioned to doing all my corporate work in Sony cameras versus Blackmagic cameras, man, that log profile sucked a fat one compared to B-RAW. And so, yeah, I was really struggling with that. But that's specifically S-Log3, which I think is probably the worst log profile. The Fuji, I thought that had was quite a nice log profile. GMT Neil says, everyone should own at least one 44.2. I agree. One-man show. That's unfortunately what a lot of us are here on YouTube, and what we kind of end up preaching, because it takes so long to bring the team together. Again, this is the problem with like YouTube filmmaking, is like everyone's like, I shot this, and I've done this too. I shot this with just myself in a house and da-da-da. That's great. You should make films like that all the time. But on the same token, you should also make films with like teams who go, hey, that idea that you had? I've got a better one. Hey, that line in that script? I think I have an ad-lib that will work here that would be really nice to just cap this scene off. Hey, how you imagine this sort of lighting setup with your, as a director of photography, let me paint that light a little bit differently. Hey, you just sort of said this scene was just a regular lounge. Okay, but I'm a production designer and I have dressed this to reflect the character's personality. What do you think? All of that stuff is just not normal or achievable in YouTube world. Oh my God, Eric Shaquille, by yourself films can be rough. Eric Shaquille, well, you were doing the best by yourself films. Unfortunately, you're now retired, so it's up to us to it's up to us now to make less good by yourself films. But yeah, and you have to also admire the skill of people that can do by yourself films really easily. But yeah, you just hit those limitations. That's all. And also, Eric, miss you, brother. I know. I just watched your video yesterday where you're like, "Hey, I'm taking some time away." I was like, "Fuck life. Why? Why do the good ones have to stop making stuff?" And I guess I see a lot of my journey and yours, and that I started off being a lot more creative on YouTube and doing little like skits that were very elaborate and time consuming and stuff. And at a certain point I was like, oh fuck, everyone's clicking off the creative bit and just wanting me to get to the dumb bullshit gear bit. And it just really killed. I still do those sometimes, but it just definitely, I was just like, man, the YouTube algorithm is fucked up. And so I hate to see it when like someone essentially doing your own thing and getting punished for it when your own thing is actually better than the generic, boring, vanilla bullshit thing that gets rewarded here thanks to the algorithm. Because actually what we all need is to watch more Eric Shaquille films. And we need to go into the Eric Shaquille, David Lynchian universe as you do something. That is a million times better than going, hey, this lens chromatic aberration in the vignetting, and it's like, again, what's that got to do with anything? How's that going to expand your mind? But that the Russian incident, that definitely, I was like, fuck yeah. So anyway, I hope you come back and make more movies. I hope you change your mind today and start making them again tomorrow. I just wish YouTube would treat you with the respect you deserve, and I mean that as the algorithm being crap. Man. 5 million AUD is about 1 million in USD. Damn, that's wild. Look, man, houses are expensive over here. Carlin Santiago says, I rebuilt my dad's frozen Zeiss 50 Zebra vintage lens, but I only had a stiff synthetic grease. It works, but no room for matte box plus follow focus. Still, that's pretty awesome. I love to hear it. Epic tutorials. Elliot, the man. The stream is great. I hope you do more live streams in 2026. I hope I can get them to work better than fucking this one with these chats not popping up. I spent so long trying to figure out chat and OBS. Watched about 5 YouTube tutorials at 3 a.m. last night, and we're still getting this not good example. Yeah. What happens if I save it? Well, I still think I can fix it, but I don't know. Yeah. Okay. That thorium in those old vintage lenses, there is that whole thing, if you shine like a UV light on it forever, that you can un-yellow them. I don't know if you want to un-yellow them. Isn't that kind of what also potentially can make them interesting? GMT Neil says, I shoot mostly Sony, but I'm a camera brand agnostic. Me too. Looking to get a run and gun second camera. I love the look of the Pixel 6K, but the ZR is lighter. I won't cry over OpenGate. What would Savage do? Savage loves both those things. Savage almost bought a Pixel 6K as well the other day when he got paid up from one of his clients. But the Savage Filmmaker ultimately, especially if mainly what you use is Sony, Savage Filmmaker would recommend the ZR, because ultimately what the ZR is a Blackmagic camera, but with all the things that Blackmagic don't quite have yet. And that's why I love it so much, because my whole kind of, I have had Blackmagic cameras for like almost the last 10 years, I guess. And my pervasive thought over that entire time is like, man, if they just did, what Sony cameras do, but with the Blackmagic image, they can't lose. They're invincible. They'll be the greatest cameras ever. And that's not necessarily the direction they want to go. But then Nikon was like, hey, yeah, well, we will. And so they did. So I would recommend a ZR. Just know that unlike the Blackmagic, where you're going to get more from your raw shooting in 12:1, that ZR is going to eat up your storage, because you do really need to shoot in red code raw. So yeah, but I would recommend the ZR. Savage would recommend the ZR. Have I checked out StreamYard? Yeah, I did. In fact, I used to run streams on StreamYard for a couple of my clients. I honestly think I just need to use my brain a little bit more, exercise that old thing, and try and get this chat going. I'm almost there. I just feel like it's one setting that I need to click, and it will look fine. But yeah, StreamYard's okay. I'll probably go with Ecamm. I have used them both in the past. Also, I don't know if you're the same, but like, I'm really bad with boring information. So my brain will do the old Men in Black flash on anything that is boring that I learn, which unfortunately is most things. So, I've done StreamYards before. I do OBS, blah, 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 blah. And now I can't fucking work any of it because I've just forgotten. So I'm doing well. After all these years as a filmmaker, yeah, it has been many years, what is the biggest thing you found out about your profession that you would warn your younger self? And what are the good stuff we're sticking? Oh, shit, man, that's a great question. So I guess the biggest thing I found out about my profession is that nobody gives a shit about your work. And I mean that in the sense that in your mind, you're the main character of your life, and you're the main character of the world. You see the world through your eyes, right? And so in your head, you're like, as the main character, all these other peripheral characters are on my team trying to see me succeed. The truth is that you do have some characters in your life that do want to do that. And they're the ones that will kind of big up your film, right? But then that can lead to a misconception that is the rest of the world. Whereas the rest of the world doesn't give a shit. And so I think I would be under the false impression when I was making movies earlier in my career that it was like, hey man, I've got the whole world on my back making this little indie film or whatever, and everyone's on my side and wants to see me succeed. And the truth is that it's like, no, I'm just getting that echo chamber of my friends and family, and they're actually not important. They are important. We always need our friends and family to support us, but they're not important in terms of whether or not this film will have legs, or whether or not this film will break out, or whether or not this film will become something. To that, you have to make people that have no clue about you give a shit, and that is probably the hardest thing for a film to do, and I'm not just talking about indie films. So that was something that I was kind of operating in that delusion, and I think that gave me a sense of entitlement that I should not have had, which, again, many of us filmmakers do have. And I operated in a way where, yeah, I was like, hey, everyone's on my side, it's all going to work out. And it's like, no, man, no one's on your side, man. So what are you going to do? So that would be that was what I would say to my younger self. I'd be like, hey, man, you think everyone's on your team. No, that's your small circle that are supporting you, and that's great. But you need to find a way to engage the rest of the people, not that small circle. And don't believe that small circle was indicative of the rest of the world. So that's what I'd say. But what is the good stuff worth sticking into it? Well, look, for me, the good stuff is always like and this again is why this whole YouTuber filmmaker thing doesn't really make sense, is like, I love working with other people. I love collaborating. I like to see my vision filtered through other people's minds, because actually, certainly I definitely don't have the best ideas a lot of the time. Certainly, my vision can be improved. And when you surround yourself with talented people, it just all comes together. So I guess that feeling, like, I think my favorite feeling on set is like, I've had this thing in my head for 2 years, and now I'm seeing it on screen. But someone has just said to me something that has completely flipped my perspective on it, and now we're going in a slightly different direction, which is even cooler. That kind of spontaneous kind of creative collaboration to take something that you've so meticulously prepared and spin it in a different way is like so thrilling every time you do it. The other thing that I think is great about filmmaking is there's no clocking filmmaking. You never stop learning. And any job that I've stopped learning at, I just get bored and walk away from. But you can never stop. You will always kind of get something different because every film has a set of variables that changes. So you can apply the same formula to each one, and it doesn't matter. It will change, and so you will see something different within that outcome. And, you know, I'm learning lessons now, unfortunately, sometimes on like big expensive films I've done, and I'm like, fuck, I did that all fucking wrong. How did I fuck that so bad? I've done this for 20 years. How did I fuck that so bad? I should be better than this, but that's just the truth of the learning process of film. The ever changing, ever evolving. You use new tools. You work with new people. All that sort of thing. And that is actually beautiful. So that what I'd say is like what I love about the process and will get me up in the morning to do it. I also love the idea that I see some of my friends, especially my age, they're looking for it to be easy. And it's like, I don't think it's true that nothing worth doing is easy. I don't subscribe to that. But it is kind of true in film that it's like, man, you really got to put in hours, thought, time, prep, grueling shoot. You got to do it all to excavate some little moment of greatness, some little moment of magic. And that is, again, I actually dig that. It's like, fuck yeah, let's go and stay up until 6 a.m. to get this one shot at blue hour, you know, or golden hour, whatever, you know, for 30 minutes. Let's get it wrong and go back the next day and do it all again. You know, shit like that. I think that's awesome. Like, you know, that's the whole thing. The whole problem with AI making everything easy is like, but that's kind of not what it's about. I'm not saying that your every filmmaking experience should be like horrible, but I don't think it necessarily should be easy. So I hope that has answered your question. Very good question. Yeah, what do we got here? Eric Shaquille. I really appreciate that, man. So I've watched your Blackmagic user camera party skit several times. Shame the algorithm never pushes creative videos. Yeah, it is a shame. You know, that is something that I think we as real filmmakers here on YouTube are battling, is that like, just the algorithm is just so anti-different things. So if you try something different and unique, which should be the point of making shit, you will be punished for it by YouTube. And so then you don't do that. And so then what does YouTube become? Yeah. Pixel 6K, here the gardener says, I fell asleep. Shit, I want the Pixel 6K. Sorry for putting you to sleep. Jeremiah Cook, oh, big Cook in the chat. If you get one extra feature in the ZR, what would it be? At this stage, it's a toss-up, right? Focus peaking, which shouldn't be an extra feature, really, should it? Focus peaking in Red Raw with the view assist on would probably be my number one, but OpenGate is pretty handy just to shut people up talking about OpenGate. Z or Z? Great question. I say both, right? Keep them guessing. So yeah, if I could get one extra feature in the Nikon ZR, at the moment I just get focus peaking. But I guess if I was sort of thinking it a bit more like, and I've heard rumor, you know, that it would be like a ProRes LT. And I actually think so. I guess I've got to walk that back. I'd get lower quality red modes because I always used to shoot in red ELQ or whatever it was, like the lowest quality red on my Komodo. And that was great when they added that into the Komodo. So I would fuck focus peaking. I'll just fucking eyeball that shit. And I'll just take different versions of red, so I can just have a bit smaller file sizes when I want to. And then if we add on to that, give me that ProRes LT for the corporate work. Epic Tutorial says, can you speak to your love of hip hop? Favorite Dre song? Which hip hop artist would you call the GOAT? Have you considered your own album? I bet you're a lyrical savage. Look, Eminem was my gateway drug into hip hop, as I think for a lot of us white kids, back in, 2000 or 99 or whatever. But also a lot of my friends used to listen to Wu-Tang. Favorite Dre song? That's impossible. Because if you listen to either of his albums, you're kind of like, oh shit, that's a classic. Oh shit, that's a classic. Oh shit, maybe the next episode though. Just come on, that fucking beat. Fuck. Maybe. Yeah, that, and also for perfectly encapsulating the Dre Snoop collaboration dynamic perfectly. So yeah, maybe the next episode. Which hip hop artist would you call the GOAT? Again, god damn, maybe I think Tupac is still up there. I mean, of the new school, Kendrick is amazing. But yeah, maybe it's really hard because there's just, you're asking like the hardest questions of all time. So yeah, maybe that is so tough. I have to think on that. I listen to a lot of Jay-Z, but I feel like his albums are very hit and miss sometimes. Like he can make a whole bad album and then he can make a whole classic album. I also feel the same about Nas. His best albums are like bar none the best. But then his sort of some of his other albums are just like, where's I want the old Nas. But yeah, look, yeah, there's too many. You made it too hard. I can't answer that question. I'm gonna have you've exploded my brain now just even thinking about it. So I gave you the Dre one. So, yeah. Having the Iron Glass Animorph fake set, modification not rehoused. Love using them, but a lot of clients think it's too much at times and having to white balance each time since they're not color matched. So this is those Iron Glass Animorph fakes. I've seen those, and look, I think we all have looked at an Iron Glass set in our time. I think the problem, what I don't really like about it, is obviously that rehousing process is so expensive. Now, obviously they sell the non-rehoused version as well. I had the Animorph fakes as well. Oh, Epic Tutorials dropped a little $5. Thank you, bro. It should only be $2.50 because I half answered that question. Those Iron Glass vintage lenses, I think the problem is, like, especially if you get the set where they've rehoused it, is like you're essentially paying the same amount as a regular cinema lens set, but you're buying old Russian Soviet glass that sucks. And I don't mean that it sucks visually. I mean that it sucks. Like, the quality is like a $70 lens you can buy off eBay, but now you're paying $3,000 for it because it's rehoused. It kind of doesn't make sense. I used to use those Animorph fakes, and I used to put the little things in the back of my lenses, but I did, though the limitations and the weird things they do, kind of, you quickly grow out of that, I suppose. Or maybe not grow out is the wrong word, but now that we have like sort of the Blazars anamorphics, they're giving us cheap enough that we probably don't need to get into all that stuff as much. I do love those Soviet lenses, but I would just buy them sort of and kind of just chuck cine gears on them, but the non-color matching thing is pretty annoying. Are you feeling happy, fulfilled, and contemplate that you've taken this? So with regards to filmmaking, Avivitaha Stories asks, are you feeling happy, fulfilled, and content that you've taken this difficult filmmaking path? Yes, because you only live one life. You don't get any redos. And I certainly have not had the successful career in film that I would have hoped, but I've always taken big, massive fuck-off swings. And so while I haven't achieved my wildest dreams, I have never stopped swinging. So I am content that if you said your life's up tomorrow, I'd be like, fuck, man, I gave it a shot. In fact, I liken it to, and I always say this, and it probably pisses people off because maybe they haven't seen, but there's a scene in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest where Jack Nicholson says, hey, I'm going to rip that basin up and I'm going to throw it through the window and I'm going to get the fuck out of here. And they go, no, you're not strong enough to do that. You can't do that. And he goes, how much you want to bet? I'm going to do it right now. I'll show you right now. And he goes over there and he is grabbing onto that thing. And you can see him. There's no acting involved. He's trying to rip that shit off and pull it up. And he can't. And he's not strong enough. And after a while, everyone watches him. And I think that at the beginning, it's sort of like they're happy that he's not doing it. By the end, they feel bad that he hasn't managed to do it. And he walks up to them all and he goes, well, I tried, God damn it. At least I did that. And then he walks off. And that's how I feel about my filmmaking career is, hey, I fucking gave it a shot, man. And I'm going to keep giving it a shot regardless. And that's all you can do. You know, you can't always predict the outcome, and you also can't always, there's, unfortunately, another thing I've learned through this filming is like luck and circumstance play a way more important role than you think. You think it's all talent, and it's just not. You need talent combined with luck at the right time. Perspiration meets preparation in the right circumstances. And so I think that what we don't realize is like, shit, man, a lot of things have to come together that are out of our control. What is in my control is I'm going to try and keep making art and keep making films and telling stories because that's what I'm passionate about. Other things I hope go my way. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Heather. I appreciate that super chat. Heather says, I learned a pole dance because I gave up on being able to dance to hip hop. That's good. Fair enough. Thank you for the super chats. California love. Absolutely. Yeah. Rob Redford asked, do you ever shoot underwater? Would you buy a housing, rent gear, or consider using an action cam? So I have actually shot underwater. Epic Tutorial says next episode is also the best. Dre, like The Watcher is pretty good. The Watcher is up there, but yeah. Robert Redford asked, do you ever shoot underwater? Yes, I have shot underwater. When I shot underwater, I used an action cam, and I've also actually just used my iPhone to shoot underwater. Nowadays, I actually wouldn't bother with the underhousing using and all that bullshit. I just use my fucking phone because your phone is really, really good now, especially if you've got a new one. You can shoot ProRes RAW underwater. Just let that sink in, okay? Let that just percolate. You can shoot ProRes RAW 4K on your phone, open gate, underwater. So I wouldn't bother now, just the way things have gone. I wouldn't bother with a whole underwater housing kit unless I really specifically. So I've done a few different tricks. Yes, I've done it that way. In my last sort of big documentary, I swam underwater with my DJI Action 2, almost lost it, and it fell off, and I had to dive in and find it again. Anyway, I did that, and I was like, yeah, this is not ideal, but now I've got the iPhone, which would be even better. So I have done the thing where you put your camera in a fish bowl and you have it floating on top of the water, half submerged, and that actually works really, really well. It is quite scary though, because if you kind of splash or your actor splashes, you're in trouble. So, but that is also a good option. That's where I kind of sit on that one. Cheers, brother. Aviv Taha. Cheers, brother. Thank you. Hope you get your deserved success, and I appreciate your genuine answers. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for asking such great questions. Cool. I'm almost at the end of the chats, but we've got up to 20 views, 20 concurrent viewers. So I really appreciate that. I don't really know how to look at these stats, but please like the stream if you haven't. I actually don't know how to check if anyone has liked or not liked the stream, and I'm okay with that. So I will just talk a little bit, maybe, what if your phone has cracks? Well, yeah, that's a little bit different. That's a little bit different. So I guess what did I want to talk about on this stream? 18 likes, thank you. I guess I did want to talk a little bit about this whole OpenGate thing. I know I'm super late to the party, and I was like, should I just do a little fucking video thing? It's like, the truth is I'm busy. I don't always have time to talk about the latest nonsense on YouTube. But I do want to talk a little bit about OpenGate, because I do think, a lot has been said. A lot of controversy around OpenGate. I have multiple cameras that have OpenGate, and I have multiple cameras that don't have OpenGate. And to be perfectly honest, I don't give too many shits about OpenGate, except for the fact that I shoot anamorphic, and I do love shooting an anamorphic. I also do heaps of vertical work for clients, and I still don't really care about OpenGate. But I do think that it is very helpful in certain situations. So, like, Gerald's whole thing where he went in, is kind of exactly what I said, is like, Epic Tutorial says he's retracting his like based on the fact that this stream is not an OpenGate. But yeah, look, the OpenGate thing. Gerald said, like, look, man, do you even really need it? Like, I feel like I saw a thing from Armando Fiera, who is not my favorite YouTuber, by the way. I'll just say that straight off the bat. But he was like, I will never use the Nikon ZR because it doesn't have OpenGate. And I was like, cool, good. At least you can't shill that then. Fucking good. Shut the fuck up then. Never. And I was like, for one, 100% we're going to see the Nikon ZR on your channel. So let's be real here. Two, I kind of agree that, like, putting super precedence on an OpenGate is a bit much, but I also do understand, as someone who uses that and shoots in that format, I understand it is really useful. So I do think that Gerald's perspective on the whole OpenGate thing is partially informed by the fact that he hasn't done any, I guess, corporate or work outside of YouTube in 9 years, or whatever he said, right? And so back then, it was a very different thing. No one was really asking for verticals. And as soon as you use OpenGate to kind of create a vertical, you're like, hey, that is actually very helpful, actually. That's made my life easier, because and I did a YouTube tutorial on shooting reels where I said, don't I've done it both ways, and I think it's better to shoot horizontally and do a vertical crop. which I still maintain. I feel like you have more latitude to change and adjust that. And then when you have OpenGate, you have even more latitude. And I do think that, so ultimately, as a tool going forward for filmmakers, OpenGate is both helpful and will become even more important. And I do, and Mighty Miggy says, I honestly can't go back to 16:9. I've been using OpenGate for too long. So I would say I use OpenGate not every now and then, quite a bit for clients, and then obviously quite a bit for myself when I'm shooting anamorphic. I'm never doing anamorphic for my clients. They are not wanting the fucking anamorphic look. That is the last thing they're wanting. So I do agree that ultimately it's something that going forward should be in every camera. But if it's not, who cares? Sort of. Like, I guess if it's not, it's like, cool, man, I'll just do what I did before and deal with it. I think what is a more accurate thing to say, maybe, and you would know about, again, if you once you've used it, like Mighty Miggy said, it is hard to go back. But I also think that we all weren't using it, we all didn't care. But then again, reels weren't around then, you know? The way we consumed content wasn't the same then. So it is a real nice to have, but I guess I would choose a few things over OpenGate. So I would choose internal RAW recording over OpenGate, and I would choose really good autofocus over OpenGate. Now, the A7 V gives you one of those two things. So I get that in terms of a hierarchy of priorities, I don't think OpenGate is the be-all and end-all in the way that some people have talked about it. And I do think that you shouldn't rule out a really nice camera because of OpenGate. But you can now, as a camera company, not say you don't need that. You can't say you don't need that to anyone. That's your customers. So you can't say we think you don't need that. It's like, we'll tell you what we fucking need. We're the customer. We'll tell you what, we are literally telling you what we need. We need OpenGate for our vertical filming, and you're not giving it to us. And I think that's the problem with the A7 V, is that it's sort of like, and I know that like Steve Jobs and shit says, you know, the audience doesn't know what they want. I know what they want. Fuck off. So yeah, like I would say that it's good. You should put it in all new cameras. I do like to have it. However, now my main camera, my C300 Mark III, does not have it, and it will be a slight inconvenience from time to time. It might become more of an inconvenience, and just from a filmmaking point of view, not a content creation point of view. One thing that sort of no one has talked about, because no one is like, I guess, really dialed in on this space, but like these new TikTok series or real-time series, like as an app like TikTok, you download and you watch these like dramas that are like 60 episodes and they're all 60 seconds long, and they're exploding in popularity. And I have actually worked on one. I was an actor on one for someone else. That's a story for another day. And I know my DOP friend Isaac has shot 2 of them. And they're a booming industry, in an industry that is receding. You know, they're exploding and making money and being a great work avenue for, I guess, people that are more interested in narrative, while narrative filmmaking, the cinema experience, all that sort of shit is diminishing. So it's a very rare growth part of the industry, which means that, again, OpenGate would be critical for those of us who are interested in filming those, who think they'll get work filming those, blah, 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 blah. Then OpenGate again becomes like, you wouldn't have cameras on those sets that didn't do that. Nowadays, probably. Although I have heard a lot of them are shot on like Sony cameras, ironically. So we have to walk that back. I do know heaps of them were shot on Sony cameras, but in the future they won't be. Because, again, what it comes down to is the opening of the gates provides a different sort of more options in terms of the look that you can get visually, in terms of where you can place the camera to achieve certain things with that extra top and bottom. And that, when you have a very limited frame to work in, the more options for your frame, the better. So yes, I would say, yeah. Mighty Miggy says, if you remember Blizzard, the game company, when they said, do you guys not have phones? That's how company fails, to be honest. So yeah, and thank you for the super chat, Robert Redford. I greatly appreciate that. So I don't like OpenGate because I'm old and was happy when TVs changed to 16 by now. Now we're going backwards. That's pretty funny. So yeah, I think that, like, unfortunately we're talking about into the future. It's just something that will be more and more integrated for filmmakers' work, and therefore should be in all cameras, and no one should be saying we don't need it. But on the same token, with cameras that don't have it, it's a pretty easy fix most of the time, and therefore I do feel that, to play devil's advocate, it has been sort of overhyped a little bit. And also the fact that, like, anyone cares is kind of funny, you know. So yeah, there's my OpenGate. There's my OpenGate take. My OpenGate hot take. My OpenGate not at all hot take. So yes, let's open the gates. But if they're not open, that's okay. That's okay too. Okay, cool. Well, we've covered OpenGate. Let's get into some more chaos. I guess, look, this live stream's gone on quite a while, so thank you so much for all bearing with me. Z8 or ZR? For me, it's got to be ZR because Red Code RAW. Even though the Z8 is a much better fully featured camera, ZR for Red Code RAW is the absolute tits. I mean, it's very good. So yeah, I would recommend Red Code RAW as something that no other, like, little small camera can do like that. You know, like, if you want to get that image quality anywhere else, best get yourself a Blackmagic, basically. Yeah. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate you. So where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So camera of the year. Camera of the year, as voted by Petapixel, is the Panasonic S1 II. As voted by Creative Fam Live, was the S1 II. Now, people on my channel might know that I have a different opinion of the S1 II. An opinion that means that I do not think it should be camera of the year. And I will explain my reasoning thusly. If a camera comes out and for 6 months has a serious overheating problem, and on the 7th month the overheating is fixed, that means that it's been a proper camera, a proper reliable camera for only 1 month of the 7 months of its existence of the year that it was voted camera of the year. That ain't camera of the year for me. I'm sorry. So I think that the S1 II is overrated. I think that the S1 II has been put on a pedestal because of some of the
options it provides, the additional options it provides, and we all point to it and go, yeah, see, we're on the right track. Absolutely. We're definitely on the right track. Absolutely. Those features are cool, but a lot of those features are kind of half working, you know? They're like halfway there. So, yeah, for me, the S1 II is definitely not camera of the year. And in fact, yeah, I'll go into it in one of my videos. I'll go into it. We'll get into it. But I feel like the whole perception of like the S1 II, like, oh, they got firmware, like, oh man, Panasonic Lumix really listens, guys. And it's like, oh, Lumix listens to everyone saying, hey, my camera's overheating and broken and I can't use it on hot sunny days. Well, you bet your fucking ass they listen. They'll be fucking desperate to listen and fix that, because otherwise they got a non-working camera. They got a camera that sucks in certain conditions. So I feel like it's like, Lumix really listens. What else were they going to do? Ignore it and watch me do more YouTube videos about overheating? What? So, yeah, I think that the S1 II is not it for me. Anyone else got any camera of the year picks? I'd love to hear them in the chat. Yeah, I definitely am not. To me, it's crazy. You can't take a camera to market that is kind of a little bit broken, that you can't really use the way it was intended in all the situations it was intended, and then go, guys, camera of the year. We got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. So, yeah, for me, the S1 II is not it. If I had to pick, I would probably say the Nikon ZR, of course, is easy. And the Nikon ZR has plenty of problems, you know? And we sort of talked a little bit about that. Like, it would be better if it had... it would be better if it had lower compression rates for Red Code RAW. It would be better if the menu system wasn't buggy with the no focus peaking and all that. And yes, it would absolutely be better if it had open gate. All of those things are true. All of those things are true. However, what the ZR is, I think, is that it's very innovative. And it just did two simple things, and I'm not even talking about Red Code RAW. That's separate. Red Code RAW makes it image-wise beat all these other cameras that would be in the conversation for sort of mirrorless hybrid of the year, let's say. The Red Code RAW just beats them all. There, done, the end. We have a winner. Camera of the year, ZR, right? However, I actually think that they're two great innovations which no one else did and should have, and have had, I don't know, 10 odd years to figure out, is they made a giant LCD screen for it, which is like, oh, this is how we're meant to view our video footage. Wow, this is so refreshing. Oh, I don't have to spend heaps of money building this camera out. I can literally just use the flip out screen as it was intended. The end. Why didn't anyone else think of this? You know, it's so stupidly simple and yet so simply brilliant. And then on top of that is that the 32-bit float. And again, I think people maybe don't make a big enough deal about that because, oh, what's the worst thing about all these hybrid mirrorless cameras? Oh, the preamps are terrible. Oh, whenever I put, you know, I'm in constant panic mode whenever I run audio directly into this, because if it peaks, I'm screwed. I know that the preamps aren't very good. I should really probably look at an external supply, external battery supply. I should, not external battery supply, external audio recorder. I should do, because I know that the preamps are going to be bad and I know it's going to be very risky to record internally to this camera. And Nikon said, oh, is that a problem, is it? Oh, well, let's just fucking solve that with a little Thanos snap, right? Boom, 32-bit float. There you go, no stress. And I will say that I've been using now, like I'm just running my audio when I'm doing my sort of corporate shoots. A lot of the times I'm just running audio directly into that. And I'm just walking around bulletproof. Like I'm like, yeah, that kind of peaked a little bit. Don't give a shit. I'll get it back in post. It'll be all there. 32-bit float. I'm safe. And I think that all the time. I think that when it's too loud. I think that's when it's too quiet. I'm just like, yeah, don't worry. 32-bit float will save that. I'm good. I'm good. Let's move on. Let's not ask them to do that again. Let's not tell them, oh, could you just stop for a second? I just need to tweak the audio levels or anything. I don't have to do any of that because I got 32-bit float. So those kind of two innovations, which again could have any other camera company could have done that, and they didn't because they were focused on, I don't know, even better AI autofocus with Sony. And it's sort of, it's just interesting that they kind of thought of these two real simple things that then elevates kind of using that camera. And I mean, how does it feel to just go out and use it and shoot with it? Those two things make it better to go out and use and shoot with than all these other cameras, just because it has those two things. Never mind the R3D image quality. So yeah, I've got to give it to the ZR. However, you could also say the Pixis 12K, because the Pixis 12K is essentially like, hey, you want like the best sort of almost RE level image quality. Well, let's give it to you at an insanely affordable price. You know, barriers, filmmakers, we're removing them all, which I love about the new technology. And why I do get excited still about talking about gear is like what we had, you know, us people that started in the 5D Mark II days versus what we have now, and therefore how we can sort of compete is beautiful. And so the Pixis 12K is definitely that new camera. The 6K is also amazing, but the 12K is just sort of like, oh, you could always tell the difference between this and those real high tier $100,000 cameras. Well, maybe now you can't, you know? So yeah, Pixis 12K also up there, but I have to give ZR for their innovation. Cool. What do we got? Sony's problem is their software developers. Their hardware is good, but they need to invest more to actually programming new features and not pricking the camera. Totally agree with that. Sony are like, yeah, I always say this. They're like, they give you the most with the least amount of effort. So all auto everything on a Sony, and your clients or whomever will be like, hey, it's a beautiful image you shot there. And you're like, I didn't shoot it, my Sony shot it. But everything was in focus. Everything looked good. You know, everything was sharp as hell. And that's kind of, you know, that is Sony. So, yeah. Carl in San Diego says, mics with internal recording are taking hold, but we still need a field recorder for high quality boom mic. Yes, but it would be interesting for you to sort of compare and contrast running like a sort of something phantom powered, but going into this and see if you really feel like there's still a significant difference. There's definitely a difference, but when I'm listening to my audio, when I get it into post and I'm doing that thing for the client at the end, I'm like, I'm not hearing this really be better or worse than when I was running it into like a proper XLR preamp sort of thing. So yeah. And also GMT Neil says, I love the screen on the ZR. The new screen on the A7 IV is great, but it has a huge bottom bezel. On the ZR, that 4-inch screen is, yeah, the best. Oh, there we go. Heather says she's still holding on to her Temu version. 6K with autofocus. Temu would never lie. The last thing I got off Temu was a series of hard cases because they were really affordable. But when I opened them up, they kind of smelled a bit weird. Like, I don't really know how to explain. Like, it was just a strange smell, and I was like, oh, I don't want to put all my gear in there. So no more Temu for me. Temu was banned in on my phone. Cool. Well, where are we at? I think we're almost at 2 hours. It's been fun. Lovely stream. I do have 2 beers that I could crack into. But I don't know if that's wise. I feel like maybe we should leave while we're on top here. But before I do, does anyone have any questions in the chat? And yeah. Okay. So a couple more questions. The smell of carcinogens. That's what Epic Tutorial Elliot says about Temu, classic Temu. Yeah, look, I agree. Yeah, 100% the smell of carcinogens. The smell of constructed by asbestos in a factory somewhere in China. So yes. And can the ZR work with run and gun also? Absolutely it can. And I do want to do like a proper video where I sort of show my workflow with the ZR on these sort of corporate jobs, because it's actually changed the way I film quite a lot, because it's so compact and so easy to use. So yeah, it absolutely can do run and gun, no problems at all. And I look, a lot has been made about like, oh, the H.265. The H.265 is absolutely fine for like corporate work, you know? Like, no, I wouldn't shoot the H.265 on like my next feature film, but that's what the Red Code Raw is there for. Like for day to day, H.265 is absolutely fine. Let's go on. Here we go. Have a drink for me. Lager. I think it's a lager. Okay. Well, you're twisting my arm here. You're twisting my arm. The beer's coming. You twisting my arm. Shit. So I wash a black coffee down with this beer. It is a lager, I'm pretty sure. Okay, some good questions coming in here, so we'll get through this beer. Oh, one of my little dinosaurs fell over. They're not that stable. Okay, here we go. This is actually a wheat beer. Yeah, I've got a lager as well, but this one's a wheat beer. That was a terrible pour. Not proud of that. But cheers to everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for keeping the discussion very lively and making my life easy, whereas I didn't have to talk too much shit about whatever. So some very good questions in here, and I'll try and get through them in order as my the head on my beer goes down. Nearly midnight here in the UK. So on the rum and cokes, hell yeah. My friend drinks only rum and coke, my production partner, or Jack Daniels and coke. And I'm always like, dude, that's too much now. We got to dial it back. We got to get on the white spirits now to manage the hangovers now. Well, look, it's 1 p.m. here on a Sunday, and I'm having a beer. So, yeah, okay. So, Carl and San Diego, what do you think about a Pixar 7K with 6K, 4K, 2K as native formats? I think that's a great idea. We always talk about 12K being overkill, but I will say that, like, while 12K is overkill, I agree. I'd love to see like a 2K non-cropped version, which is what you're talking about. So for those who don't know, the Pixar's 12K has this sensor that means it can shoot raw but not crop in on the image when you downsampled to the lower resolutions, which essentially means that you have a 12K, I think a 12K, 9K, 8K, and 4K camera all at once, because you just pick whichever one you want. Now, would it be a good idea to make a 7K version? 7K being the highest resolution. I definitely think so, and I definitely think that would be really a great idea. But I don't know, having used the 12K a lot now, not a lot, but, done some significant jobs with it, I would say that I think that, I'm quite happy shooting in 12K at 12:1. I'm like not mad at that. So I don't know if it's necessary. I think what would be nice is that if they fixed up that cube body a bit more, and I'd love to see them add, those ND filters as we talked about earlier. Just if people are curious on the live stream. So Polano Weiss beer. I've never had this one before, but I do like wheat beers. I'm a big fan of wheat beers. This is actually twice the strength of a normal beer, because I am twice the strength of a normal man, in case you're wondering. I'll be honest, not bad, but not cold enough, because it's been sitting there for 2 hours, and I didn't have it sitting in the fridge. So warm beer, I'm not one of those Brits that likes that. Not at all. Cody the P. S12 is a game changer for weddings. The H.265s keep storage costs down, and the IBIS is incredible for run and gun. Can roll all day reliably. Hey, look, I've just mentioned how I hate the S12, but I don't really hate it. I think with the new firmware, it is really good. I 100% agree with you that, for small file sizes, perfect. And the IBIS, unfucking beatable. The IBIS is so good. So now that they've fixed the overheating, yeah, man, that's a pretty good combo. But did they fix the over sharpening? And I guess a more important question is, do you care? I got some interesting thoughts about that over sharpening in another video. So yeah. So Mighty Miggy says, you think I'm the future. Absolutely. You can make a video. Can you make a video about how you make money, not just on YouTube, but also your Amazon doc, and how you did that? And if you can talk about the money aspect of it. Great question. So with both the documentary and now my 2 feature films, they're all sort of streaming on a bunch of different platforms, one of them being Amazon, the other being Tubi, and then a few other smaller ones. And all these streaming ones essentially mean, oh, that's my dog. He's so naughty. I'm going to bring him in just because he's hating it out there. All right, son, come on. You can come in for a while, and then that's it. Okay? Understand? All right, come on. Good boy. Oh, okay. Yes, all right. Okay. Ooh. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Oscar. Are you calm? No, you can't drink my beer. Okay? This is Oscar. And most of the time... most of the time he's a good boy, but he is too much of a licky boy. So he's always licking. Some people don't like being licked by a dog, as it turns out, even if it's just him showing love. Okay, so this is Oscar. He has cameoed in some of my YouTube videos, and will cameo in many more. So yeah, okay. I'm getting distracted now. All right, Oscar, now you understand, son. You going to go down or what? Because I think it's time to go down. We have questions to answer. Okay? We have questions to answer. Are you going to help me? I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. All right, good boy. So, to answer the the Amazon question, and this is the thing, right? When you make movies now, your best revenue stream is not going to be in cinema or theatrical most of the time, with a few exceptions. Where you're going to make your money is on streaming. However, the problem with streaming is you're not going to make much money on streaming, or you have to get a lot of views to make a significant amount of money. It's because you're getting sort of like 5 cents a stream, sometimes less, sometimes like 2 or 3 cents per stream. Okay, so you have to have millions of people watching your thing for that to create revenue. However, you will have access to millions of people if you're on Amazon Prime or Tubi or channels like that. So what I've found is that quarterly, I receive a certain amount of money from all my different things. Now, it can sort of vary from month to month. But like, for instance, Older has been available. Older is my second feature film. It's been available on Amazon Prime and all those streaming platforms for about since 2022 or something like that. Yes, and it's made about $50,000. So over the course of that time, maybe about that. Roughly, maybe a little bit less, right? So that would be an example of like probably a pretty good result for a film being on streaming, and it's giving me, a quarterly payout of $400-500 per quarter now. The documentary, less than that. It also depends whether you're doing it through Film Hub, through a distributor or not, and what they're taking. But like, for instance, my 2 films are with indie rights and they take 20% off the top. My documentary is with Film Hub and I can't remember how much they take off the top. I feel like it's a little bit less, but it might be exactly the same. But it's better to have a distributor that is interested and engaged in trying to help you. Film Hub is kind of like an automatic thing. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, how you now have to make money is you like, okay, what did I get from my film being available on streaming for 5 years? And did I make back the money that I thought? And for me, like for a film like Older, the answer is it's still probably not really. We're still paying off or paying out to the people that we called in favors to help make the film. With the documentary, it's a little bit easier, and in fact, I do know someone that just does kind of these documentaries, and he just gets revenue from all the streaming, but he's making 12 of those documentaries a year. So then if you've got 40 of those documentaries over the course of 5 years, you could be doing really well. But that's the problem, is like the value of content has been drastically diminished, yet the cost of making it has not been that much diminished. And in Hollywood, it has cost more. So the math don't math. But I hope that's answered your question. But like, for instance, the documentary, which is called Glimpses, which is also available on my YouTube channel, which is, I'm very proud of it. A very harrowing story of my uncle, who battled MSA, which is multiple system atrophy, and managed to make this documentary just before he passed. And anyway, I do encourage you to watch it, but bring a tissue. It's available on my channel, and it's on all these streaming platforms. And I'll be honest, I don't know. I would have to check the analytics, but I would say it's probably made as much just being on my YouTube channel as it would have on those streaming platforms. Whereas my other films, my narrative films, have made much more than if I would have just put them on YouTube. Unless, of course, they blow up on YouTube. But, yeah. I hope that's helpful. Have a couple of beers and tell us what you really think of Armando. So, I don't really have any issue with Armando, like, as a human being. and I enjoy some of his content, and I think in the past he's had some amazing content. My only issue, I guess my two issues with Armando are very simple. One, he had the dumbest take of all time where he's like, hey guys, this was on his threads. He was like, hey guys, it's actually better and harder to be a YouTuber than it is being a filmmaker. And I'd way rather be a YouTuber. And it's like, cool, man. You'd way rather shill fucking tripods and gimbals than you would make art. Fuck off with that shit. Come on, bro. Like, yeah, okay, you could say, I love being a businessman and making heaps of money, and as a filmmaker, you're broke, motherfucker, so I prefer to be rich and paid up. Hey, that's a better argument. But just saying, like, hey, it's actually way more challenging to be a YouTuber. It's like the dumbest hot take in history. Like, for starters, I'm doing both, and I can tell you without a shred of a fucking doubt that it is way harder to make films than it is to make content here on YouTube. All right? The end. No ifs, ands, or buts. Right? If you're making YouTube, you just have to sit in front of this fucking camera and talk shit. Hopefully not shit. Hopefully good stuff. But and chuck a bit of B-roll over the top. You're done. Versus inventing an entire world for an audience to believe in and buy in, and bringing together multiple different talents in different applications to create a story that captures someone's imagination or creates an entirely new reality. Yeah, man, no, it's way harder to talk about the fucking gimbal. Yeah, it's way tougher. Hey, yeah, man, because the gimbal's got so many features, and how are you going to get through all of the features in that 10-minute time period? Like, I get it. I don't know. I take it all back. It's actually way harder. It is way more difficult to be a YouTuber than a filmmaker, and way more rewarding, because if you recommend the gimbal enough, you'll get really good affiliate sales. And if you just make a film, well, no one cares, as I just mentioned earlier. And I guess what's funny about all of that is, like, he's only done one of those two things successfully. He has a super successful YouTube channel. He is a fucking G when it comes to YouTube. If you've seen any of his attempts at making a narrative film, even when he brings together YouTubers to do it, they all kind of shit the bed, despite having $100,000. And that's just the reality of filmmaking, man. It's way harder, right? There's the lesson. So, no, I didn't really like that. So that is my reply to that. But the other thing that I noticed is that he was just running a whole bunch of ads on his channel, affiliate, hey man, check out this gimbal. Hey man, check out all this stuff. But he never said, hey, I'm getting paid by these companies. He was just like, hey guys, man, I've just discovered this gimbal. It's really amazing. And I tell you what, it can do so well, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, just say up front that you get paid to do that. Just say that this is an ad. Like, this is illegal. What he's doing is illegal. And obviously, because there's been a bit of backlash in the community, everyone's now had to start saying it. And I'm so glad, because it's like, if I watch an ad, I just want to know it's a fucking ad. I don't care. Like, I still may want that information, but I want to know what I'm watching is by someone who got paid by this brand to do this thing. It's really not that hard. Now, the reason that people don't do that, obviously, is because if I know I'm watching an ad, I go, shit, I don't want to watch an ad. Fuck that. I'm out. Boom, gone. Oh, hey, we just paid you $5,000 to talk about this gimbal, and you've got 5,000 views. That doesn't add up for us. We're not happy about that. Oh, well, don't worry, guys. I just won't tell anyone it's an ad. Problem solved. Not for my audience. So, again, the audience kind of gets shit on in that process. So, he was just doing that a lot. And I kind of asked him about it in his comment section, and, bro just left me on scene. So that's so if you, I don't have anything against him personally. I think that he's done some great stuff. You know, in the past, my only beef was that whole, hey man, YouTubing is way harder actually, and way better. Because obviously, as someone who considers a filmmaker first, I took that personally. And then but really it was more like, hey, this is the problem with us in this gear space, right? Is if whenever we don't disclose stuff, a little bit of our audience credibility erodes. A little bit of our audience goes, oh, wait, what? Was that an ad? Oh, wait, what did, feels like there's something wrong about that video. My favorite YouTuber talked about that, but it seemed weird. Like, it didn't seem like normal. Because again, you have to understand that, like, if you're on this live stream, you're in it, right? You're deep in it. You are sort of dialed in to this, so you understand when you're being shilled to, right? But just average Joe off the street, like my partner, you know, my friends, they just go on YouTube and they go, this guy knows about gimbals. What does he say about this gimbal? And they think that he's really recommending it when he's doing a sponsored bit, which is fine. Got to do sponsored bits. Got to make money. We all need to do that, and you will see sponsored bits on my channels too. But you just got to be transparent about it. And the more you're not transparent about it, the more our whole audience just leaves and checks out eventually, because they don't like that. So yeah, there you go. There's the answer to that one. So cheers to that. And cheers to Armando. Let's get back into the good stuff, brother. What else we got? Mighty Miggy says, I agree with you, making films is hard because it's not just you. It's so many people. But YouTube can be as hard as filmmaking. I think it depends on the YouTube channel. I see very few YouTube channels that have to work as hard as just making a film. Like, even, the math doesn't add up if you go, cool, I've got to release a YouTube video every week or every 2 weeks. If I have to do that, then automatically I'm putting less time and effort into what I would do to create a film, because generally speaking, it takes way longer than that to make a movie, even a short. And therefore, those things don't quite add up. GMT Neil says, corporate YouTubers, there seems to be a lot in the camera world lately. Personally, I do it because I love to create. I go insane if I can't. And Earthworm Yim says, yeah, that's his and his crew's create a whole thing. And look, again, I got no problem if you're, you want to put out these pieces of equipment, because I do believe that economically speaking, it is not economically viable. And I'll probably talk about this in my true how much did I make as a YouTuber thing, but I've got to break down all those metrics. But it's like, if you're investing a certain amount of time and you're getting nothing back, that's hard to maintain for a long period of time. So I do think that economically speaking, it's a good idea to do sponsorships and stuff like that. You just have to find a balance of making that transparent to your audience. And also maybe mixing it up with, and we do see a lot of them do it, where they'll do those sponsorship ones, but in between those, they'll do stuff that's more about whatever it is that they're, really passionate about. And Anthony Begley says, big, true, narrative films are a completely different monster. They really are. And look, on YouTube, you can fuck up in your video, and the only thing you're going to get is someone in the comments going, hey, dumbass, you got that wrong. Or you can mis-edit, right? And leave the bits of the edit where you mess up, and we see that all the time, right? And it's like, can you imagine if you just left in that mistake in a film? Would not fly. So yeah, that's my sort of take on all that stuff. All right, guys, I've got half a beer left. So we need a couple more questions to continue to finish this whole thing, I think. I do also think it's difficult because that whole thing about the algorithm punishing creativity is a lot of the time is quite true. Is like, if you're really creative in selling a piece of gear, that's okay. If you're just really creative and it's not tethered to any gear, no, we don't like that here. The algorithm doesn't like that here. And then that creates another problem. 6 or 7, just had to do it. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. There we go. 6, 7 in the chat. I'm not from that part of the world, but they say Kiwi rugby team is not that good. Look, we used to be the greatest. We used to be the best rugby players. We used to have the best team. And that was a legendary, iconic run of like, I don't know, even though we didn't always win, it's like 40 years we've been the best consistently. But we're not anymore, and it comes from a culture of, in New Zealand, if you grew up and played sport, the only sport was rugby. This was back when I was a kid. That was it. So if you ever wanted to play something professionally, it would be rugby, and a very far second would be cricket. And given that, you had a lot of people going into rugby. That means if a whole country is just playing one sport, they're going to get really good at it, especially if it's a sport that's not the most popular sport in other parts of the world. That's basically what it was. But recently, someone told me a stat that football/soccer is now the most popular sport for kids in New Zealand. This creates a problem because now you don't have, it's just like YouTube, just like film, everything has become fractured. Now there's this one unifying thing, no longer unified, which is we all play rugby and we're all really good at rugby, and thus we are no longer the best at rugby. Okay, so I've got a few questions here. We'll try and get through them. So GMT Neil, what are your favorite YouTube channels at the moment? I want to be clear and say I enjoy all the like Shilltubers. Like heaps of their stuff is great and inspiring and interesting, right? So, you know, you Cam Mackey's, Kofi Yaboa's, Terry Warfield's, you know, like all of them are good. And so I enjoy lots of their work that they put out. You know, I don't always agree, but I enjoy a lot of their work they put out. But if there's a guy, if we're talking like really, I guess, creative YouTubers that I think are like kind of actually on a level like, you know, they're actually either they're really different and unique, or they're really filmmakers, not film tubers, right? Then I would say Lewis Potts, Epic Light Media, who haven't done one in a while, but were one of the best, and a guy called Anderberry. Anderberry is like the greatest guy for sort of cinematic lighting looks in the world. And just everything he does looks gorgeous. Volanders is an amazing artist. And Gorks is brilliant. Although I have caught him making ads a few times as well, which I didn't appreciate because he's normally just that sort of creative, unique guy. And there is also another guy as well that that I can't remember the name of, but he's done some amazing work. Those are just off the top of my head. Heather's going to bed. Good night, Heather. Thank you for taking the time and your MBD Temu camera
and the stripper pole is going home. Thank you again. My pleasure. Thank you so much. Yeah, look, someone said, James Loop says, Eric Shaquille is my nomination for Best YouTuber of the Year. Creative review and commentary. Sad he's taking a break. 100% agree. I love watching his stuff, and I kind of agree with that, and it sucks that people with way more mediocre skills get rewarded, and that creativity doesn't. And I did have a little rant about that in his comment section on that video. Cody says, I've got an influencer who joined my wedding film coaching program because he doesn't have any actual bookings for next year. Props to him, but the ones posting aren't always the ones working. I think it's this thing where you go, I want to be a full-time YouTuber. And I understand that. I want to make better money from YouTube, but I don't want to be a full-time YouTuber because I want to get out and use the stuff in the real world. Even like from a corporate generic perspective, that's really using the tools. All the YouTuber tests aren't really using the tools, not really. So I feel like you need that yin and yang to give a good perspective on this stuff. And so, I'm always essentially trying to take this gear or whatever we're talking about and put it into real world use and go, so it was good because of this, or it was good because it wasn't, or whatever. Can you recommend a lens for the Pixis 12K? I would say, because again, my DOP friend, you're not going to like this recommendation, but the DZO R-less lenses, which are expensive but very cheap for what they are, would be pretty fantastic on that. So, start with one of the wider primes, maybe get two if you can. But if you're looking for something cheaper, the Thypox, which I recently reviewed, I really did enjoy those as well. And they're just so much cheaper, but they do give you a good cinema look. So, and then on the wide outside recommendation, vintage Leica Elmarits, I just feel like the Leica Elmarit paired with any Blackmagic gives a really nice look, and I just love that combo. So yeah. Robert Redford asked, do you feel generative AI has any place in serious filmmaking? I'm gonna need a drink for that one. Yes, because it's coming regardless, right? AI is coming for us whether we want it to or not. There is ways to use it and augment it in slightly more ethical ways, but regardless of whether it's ethical or not, it's going to be part of the process. Now, it's better in some parts than others, like, for example, when it cleans up my audio, that's AI at its best. Off you go, AI. Get onto that. Because fuck doing that myself, right? When AI thinks up a better story than I did, when AI comes up with, essentially, when AI creates a character based off copyrighted material that it has pillaged from the internet, that's not so good, right? AI is very scary. There's going to be, I'll probably do a deep dive on AI at some point. I don't want to depress people too much, but I will say, oh shit, there's more beer in my beer can. Cheers to everyone we're losing viewers now, which is understandable. We're going to be going on too long now. Pretty good beer, actually. I've spilt a little bit of that, but not on my keyboard. So I think that, for example, I created a little mini documentary for my grandma, who was 92, and it was about her whole life. And I took photographs and I AI'd them, or I didn't, my editor did. Sam, amazing work from him. And they turned into moving images, which makes it way more visually interesting.
and it also AI'd a bunch of scenarios that she talked about. Now, there's no record of that except her own voice. And I feel like that was really good that I could do that, because my little mini documentary is kind of a little time capsule for her and her life. And she even said after watching it, wow, I'm so amazed. I would like you to play that. I would like you to gather the family together and watch that rather than any type of funeral. Don't want to get choked up on that one. But I guess my point is, what I like about that and why that is cool is that my nephew will be able to watch that and see her story and be engaged with it because of AI, whereas if it was just those photographs and her talking, it probably wouldn't. And there's no record of that stuff. Like, there's no stock footage, there's no anything more that I could get to tell that story. And so I feel like that, and also that documentary it's just for the family. You know, it's not for anyone specifically more than that, nor does it need to be. And so I feel like AI in that context is great. It's brilliant. But unfortunately, most of the contexts are not that. And a lot of the contexts are, not so good. So yeah. That's my sort of take. But AI is definitely problematic. Alrighty. Oh my God. This has been over 2 hours now. All right. Maybe we should wrap it up. I'm going to put the floor open for any more questions just as we finalize. But if not, thank you all so much. Appreciate sticking around and being part of this one. I know it's not perfect with the chat not popping up. I couldn't work that out. So, yeah, I'm going to give it... Well, as the delay catches up, I'll just see if there's any more, and then we'll sort of, I think we'll wrap things up. Just finish my beer, or almost finish it. So now it's just a live stream of me drinking beer. Recommendations for practicing manual focus or just reps. Definitely reps, but I've kind of got three things. So maybe we'll make this the last question. So in your camera, whatever it is, you should have a magnification mode. So I hit magnification on to get my focus confirmation. Focus peaking, obviously. So focus peaking is the little red lines that you can turn on the part of your image that is in focus. So I punch in, get in focus, and then the other big one, which I think maybe not enough people talk about, is that focus on the eyes. Always try and get the eyes in focus. Don't worry about anything else. Don't look at the whole face. Look at the eyes. The eyes, Chico, they never lie. Even when they lie, they tell the truth about what's in focus. So those would be my three suggestions. All right. Thank you very much. It's been a lovely stream. Merry Christmas to all you souls out there in the wasteland of YouTube. Thank you so much for your patience with me, and I appreciate it all. And check out my next video, which I hope I'll be uploading maybe later on. So yeah, cheers to everyone. Cheers and the beers to everyone. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year to everyone. And I'll see you when I see you.